A new front in the global trade war is shaking the auto industry, sending shockwaves through boardrooms and factory floors alike. The stakes are high and the uncertainty is palpable as automakers brace for impact. The Trump administration is now threatening to impose steep tariffs on South African exports, a move that could upend established trade routes and disrupt the flow of vehicles into the United States. This latest salvo in the ongoing trade dispute is aimed squarely at the heart of the global automotive supply chain. The primary targets are some of the world's most iconic car makers, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen. These German giants have invested heavily in South African manufacturing, using these plants as key hubs to supply the lucrative U.S. market with high-quality vehicles. If these tariffs go into effect, American consumers could soon face sticker shock at dealerships. As the cost of imported vehicles rises, the price hikes would ripple through the market, making it harder for families to afford new cars and potentially slowing sales across the country. For automakers, the financial consequences could be severe. Profits would take a hit, and companies might be forced to rethink their global strategies, possibly leading to job losses and reduced investment in innovation. This move challenges the very foundation of the auto industry's global business model, which relies on seamless international manufacturing and open trade. Decades of careful planning and investment are now at risk. German automakers now face a direct, imminent threat to a crucial link in their supply chain, as the flow of parts and finished vehicles is threatened by new barriers and uncertainty. Caught in a complex web between Europe, Africa, and North America, these companies are squeezed by shifting geopolitics and a rising tide of protectionism. Boardrooms are scrambling to adapt, weighing contingency plans and lobbying for relief. What was once a model of global efficiency, where parts and vehicles moved effortlessly across borders, is now a glaring vulnerability, exposed by the threat of sudden policy changes and trade barriers. The clash is clear: German engineering and efficiency versus American protectionism, with tariffs wielded as the weapon of choice. The outcome could reshape the industry for years to come. Around the world, industry leaders, workers, and consumers are watching closely to see if global supply chains can withstand the pressure, or if they'll fracture under the weight of a new era in trade conflict. Why South Africa? For German automakers, it's been the perfect hub-skilled labor, government incentives, and port access for global exports. Plants in East London, Rosslyn, and Cariega build key models for the US and beyond, deeply integrated into global supply chains. This strategy let German brands optimize costs and production, using South Africa as a launchpad for international sales. The Made in South Africa label became a symbol of global efficiency. But now, political uncertainty is eroding the confidence that made this system work. German investment created jobs and growth in South Africa, while giving automakers a competitive edge. The proposed U.S. tariffs threaten to sever this vital economic artery, putting both industries at risk. Decades of cooperation could unravel with a single policy change. With the clock ticking and uncertainty mounting, German automakers are fighting back on multiple fronts, lobbying U.S. officials, rallying diplomatic support, and urgently coordinating with their global partners. The stakes are high, and every day brings new developments that could reshape the industry. Executives are meeting around the clock, poring over financial forecasts and legal documents, and preparing for the worst-case scenarios. The mood is tense as leaders weigh the risks to their companies' futures. Lobbyists warn that tariffs will hurt not only foreign automakers, but also American consumers and dealerships. Higher prices could ripple through the market, making cars less affordable and threatening sales across the board. The German government is now directly involved, seeking exemptions and pushing for a diplomatic solution. High-level talks are underway, with officials emphasizing the importance of open trade and stable economic ties. Behind the scenes, automakers are drawing up costly contingency plans, shifting production, rerouting shipments, and even considering relocating entire supply chains. Every option comes with its own set of challenges and risks. Teams of analysts are working overtime, analyzing how to absorb or offset tariffs, and debating whether to pass costs onto consumers or cut into already thin profit margins. Moving production isn't easy. Every option is expensive and disruptive. Shifting factories means retraining workers, renegotiating contracts, and facing months or even years of transition. The unpredictability of trade policy is forcing companies to divert resources from innovation to crisis management. Projects that once promised the next big breakthrough are now on hold as teams scramble to adapt. Long-term planning is nearly impossible when the rules can change overnight. Executives are forced to make decisions with incomplete information, constantly revising strategies as new threats emerge. Automakers are balancing influence and survival, with the future of their South African operations hanging in the balance. These plants are vital links in the global supply chain, and their fate is now uncertain. The stakes are enormous: billions in investment, thousands of jobs, and the future of global manufacturing all depend on the decisions made in the coming weeks. The South Africa tariff threat is part of a broader pattern, one that has come to define the Trump administration's approach to global commerce. At the heart of this approach is radical uncertainty, a hallmark of the America First trade policy that has left both allies and rivals guessing about what comes next. Tariffs, once considered a last resort, are now a go-to tool for the White House. This shift has upended decades of stable international rules, creating chaos for global businesses that rely on predictability to plan and invest. Legal battles in the U.S. have only added to the confusion, with courts swinging between limiting and restoring presidential tariff powers. No industry is safe. From German cars to iPhones, from steel to everyday consumer goods, any product can suddenly become a target, often with little warning or explanation. Companies are forced to constantly plan for new risks, draining resources, freezing investment, and making it nearly impossible to chart a clear path forward. The auto industry, with its long investment cycles and complex supply chains, is especially vulnerable to these sudden policy shifts. Building a new factory is a billion-dollar, years-long bet, one that's now fraught with risk. Executives must weigh the possibility that today's rules could be rewritten tomorrow, turning a promising investment into a costly mistake. The result? Uncertainty stifles growth, complicates supply chains, and threatens the global economy. Businesses hesitate to expand, jobs are put on hold, and the ripple effects are felt worldwide. For automakers and countless other industries, the rules of the game can change in an instant, leaving everyone to wonder what tomorrow will bring. Why not just move factories to the US? It's not that simple. Building a new plant takes years and billions of dollars. Meanwhile, tariffs still bite. Even if final assembly moves, thousands of parts still come from a global web of suppliers. Recreating this ecosystem in the US is nearly impossible and often more expensive than paying the tariff. Ironically, tariffs may encourage companies to stay put and pass costs to consumers. German automakers already have major US plants, but these can't absorb all production. Forcing redundant factories leads to inefficiency and higher prices. The policy meant to boost US jobs could backfire, raising costs for everyone. The reality: global supply chains can't be rebuilt overnight. The tariff threat could devastate South Africa's economy, where the auto sector is a cornerstone of industry and export revenue. German investment has created thousands of skilled jobs and a network of local suppliers. If tariffs make South African cars uncompetitive, automakers may cut shifts or move production, triggering job losses and business closures. The timing couldn't be worse. South Africa faces high unemployment and slow growth. The auto industry has been a rare success story, now at risk of unraveling. Pretoria is scrambling diplomatically to protect this vital sector. South Africa's fate is now tied to decisions made continents away. The human cost livelihoods lost to a trade war far beyond their control. China looms large in this drama as competitor, market, and supplier. German automakers depend on China for sales and for parts used in South African plants. US-China trade tensions add another layer of risk, with tariffs on Chinese goods raising costs worldwide. A dispute between Washington and Beijing can ripple all the way to Pretoria. As the US turns inward, China positions itself as a champion of globalization, forcing companies to choose sides. German automakers must navigate between their two biggest markets, each pulling in a different direction. The once strong global network is now a source of strategic confusion. In a world of rivalry, every supply chain decision carries new risks. The tariff threat hits as automakers face rising costs from inflation and volatile oil prices. Raw materials and energy are more expensive, squeezing profits and forcing tough choices: absorb costs or raise prices. High gasoline prices make consumers hesitant to buy, especially larger vehicles. Central banks can't easily cut interest rates, so car loans stay expensive. Automakers are caught in a perfect storm: rising costs, cautious buyers, and now, looming tariffs. A 10% or 25% tariff could make some models unaffordable, slashing demand. For BMW and Mercedes-Benz, it's not just one problem. It's a cascade of challenges threatening their market position. Strategic decisions have never been more critical, or more difficult. The standoff over South African-made German cars could redraw the global auto industry. If tariffs hit, the era of pure efficiency is over. Geopolitics now shapes every decision. Automakers may shift to regional supply chains, sacrificing efficiency for resilience. The human cost: job losses in South Africa, pressure on wages in Germany, and higher prices for consumers everywhere. Protectionism doesn't guarantee more domestic jobs. It often brings pain on all sides. The future belongs to companies that can build flexibility and political savvy into their operations. The price of a car will reflect not just materials and labor, but the cost of political risk. For everyone in the industry, the road ahead is bumpier, pricier, and far less predictable.